What's going on, Packer fans? Happy Tuesday. Welcome into another episode of the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. We are aggressively approaching Packers-Lions, the fourth game of the regular season already, which just seems insane. It is always crazy how fast the season goes, but before you know it, hopefully the Packers are 3-1 on top of the NFC North, but this has been a really fun and exciting season so far that's had two fourth quarter crazy games, a really nice fun beatdown of the Chicago Bears on week one, and there is a lot of season left that is going to define this young Packers team. Of course, every single week, I'm going to break down the film, go through all my grades. If you want to check out every single grade throughout the course of the season, and I've been doing this since 2017 now, you can go over to PackerReport.com. Grades will be posted as of noon on Tuesday. You can see all the grades for the season as well as for this week. So check that out. For those of you who are watching on the YouTube channel and are interested in becoming a Pack a Day podcast member, what are you waiting for? We got extra episode every single week that is for members only, a members only chat on Thursdays. Want to shout out our Hall of Fame and All-Pro members, Most Hated Minnesotan, PJ Wynn, John Wild, Shea Bradad, Arnaldo Espinoza, Jennifer Wright, and Boom Handle. Appreciate you guys a ton. If you can't, afford or, maybe just don't want to become a member, that's totally fine. Just easily hit that subscribe button. It costs you nothing. It's super easy and it certainly helps out the channel. But either way, appreciate you guys being here. Let's jump into our episode right away. Let's start with our top graded offensive players for this week. We have three players that we'll go through always every week in the videos here. Jordan Love plus 0.95, Romeo Doubs plus 0.65, and Rasheed Walker plus 0.6. Let's break down all three of those. Now, if you're wondering how the grading scale works, you can head over to PackerReport.com as well and see it in that grades article. Jordan Love plus 0.95. I want to start by saying I had Jordan Love with a negative grade at one point. It was either late third or early fourth quarter as the game was 17-0 Saints and things weren't really going well for Green Bay. I thought it was a pretty uneven performance for Jordan through three quarters. He once again had some plays where some of his best throws were not completed or pass interferences or those sort of things. So you did have some plays that didn't show up in the box score. But you also saw some of just the inconsistency. Yes, we've seen the Luke Musgrave play to death. You saw it live. We know it was a miss. Could have Luke Musgrave maybe ran it a little bit differently? He could have. Do I think it was still a miss, even if he ran it the exact way that Jordan Love was expecting? I do. Those are the layups that Jordan Love has to hit. And that's been the one big thing from training camp to family night to preseason through 3 weeks of regular season football now is, we can compare the good or bad with Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre, and that's just going to naturally happen. I don't think we need to compare everything to is it Aaron Rodgers or is it Brett Favre or whatever, but the one thing when Aaron, especially in his prime, when he had those open passes, you just never saw him miss. And so there is going to be a little bit of a learning curve and a little bit of a change for Packer fans who see an open receiver down the field and just think that's automatically going to be completed. You're just sort of conditioned to seeing one of the more accurate throwers in the history of football, and Aaron Rodgers hit those throws over and over and over and over again with not really missing many in between. But for Jordan, that's not an excuse. Just because he's not Aaron Rodgers or a former Hall of Fame quarterback, it doesn't mean that you can't make your layups. And Matt Leflore has done a tremendous job through 3 weeks this season, finding ways to get wide receivers wide open. And those are the ones you have to hit. And we've seen Jordan hit a fair share of them as well. We've seen his receivers not come down with some of them. So it's everything. It needs to be better ball placement, better footwork, better accuracy, better, contested catches from his wide receivers, a little bit more attention to detail by his receivers and tight ends, making sure they're hitting their landmarks and getting to the spot that Jordan Love's expecting them to. And it's just a little bit of rhythm and timing. And also remember a couple things. No Christian Watson out there, so that bumps everyone up. I don't think Samori Toure or Malik Heath even really see the field if Christian Watson is healthy. So every play that goes to them, if your wide receivers are 100% healthy, I don't even think they're out there. I think that's probably a Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, or Jaden Reed instead. I think those are going to be your four primary targets when everyone's healthy. I think the other thing is to remember that Jordan Love is a first-time starter. Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Samori Toure in their second seasons, and everyone else is rookies. So it's going to take some time to get that rhythm and timing down. That is not something that just happens overnight. It takes time to get acclimated. And you can see The one that he has the best rhythm and timing with is who? Romeo Doubs, who he's been working with for a very long time. And those two are just a little bit more in tune and on the same page. That will come with Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks and Christian Watson and Luke Musgrave and the rest of the weapons on offense. It's just going to take a little bit more time. So I don't think we need to jump to any massive conclusions as of yet. But still, Jordan Love needs to make his layups. He didn't do a good enough job of that throughout this game. Now, there were some other plays, especially late in the fourth quarter and when they were making the 18-point comeback, where I thought Jordan Love was phenomenal. And at the end of the day, it's far more important what you do with the game on the line in the fourth quarter in the clutch than it is throughout the rest. It's far more often how you finish. It's not how you start. And I thought Jordan Love made up for, and then some, his uneven play through the first 3.5 quarters with his play at the end of the fourth quarter and really kind of putting this team on his back and saying, I got this. From the big 24-ish yard run and scramble that he made, to get outside of the pocket, get upfield, stay in bounds and get extra yardage, to his making Demario Davis miss. That's a fourth down play. That is a fourth down play where Demario Davis, one of the best linebackers in football, has him dead to rights. And I know if you watch the QB school, he's like, that's asking a lot from a linebacker. I don't know. Just my opinion personally, if I'm the Saints, I don't mind that. If I got Demario Davis one-on-one with Jordan Love in the hole, I'm going to take that more often than not and feel like Demario Davis is going to get the job done. Jordan Love does a tremendous job of making Davis miss, selling hard right, cutting left, and getting into the end zone. Thought that was a great play by Jordan. Followed it up with probably his best play of the day, the 2-point conversion. That is messed up from the onset. Jaden Reed, like the snap almost hits Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed's supposed to be far down the other side to get that quick little, action where you're taking the jet motion and then going quickly in reverse and trying to hit him in the flat. He's supposed to be way out there, and instead he's like behind center. And Packers are so lucky that ball did not hit him on the leg or anything that could have caused a catastrophic fumble. Even still, the play is completely messed up beyond belief at that point. And then Jordan Love is just doing his best to ad-lib and buy time. And I don't know how he gets back to Samori Toure on that play. He checks him, doesn't see him open, scrambles right. And then with almost not even looking, he looks at the end just to see, but he doesn't know if he's going to be open or not, I don't think. But just has faith in Toure that he worked his way open, and he just rifles one to Toure across his body. A phenomenal play there. You have the drop in the bucket to Romeo Doubs down the sideline, which was a great throw. You had the throw to Jaden Reed, where Reed made the diving catch down the field. You had the game-winning touchdown throw to Romeo Doubs. And the way my grading scale is set up is the catastrophics, the big interception, which we saw in this game, but that wasn't in a massively key moment, and it basically served as a punt. So it was a bad grade, but it wasn't a huge, massive grade, a negative grade. You're going to get downgraded massive for your catastrophics, and you're going to get upgraded for your big time, if we want to call them hero moments or clutch moments, whatever we want to call them. You're going to get a lot more value on those plays. And Jordan Love in the fourth quarter had a lot of big time value plays that were a huge reason why Green Bay was able to come back and win the game. And without some of those massive plays and some of his really gorgeous throws, Green Bay doesn't win. So he got a lot of extra credit, if you will, for some of the plays that he made in the clutch in the fourth quarter in huge moments. And overall, he ended up with a very positive grade in this game. Now, we can have the conversation, and this is why it's always going to be difficult to, put a performance into a number. It's always a fool's errand to try to do. I'm doing absolutely everything I can to make it the best as it can possibly be, but there's so much nuance that goes into it. Yeah, he missed some throws in the fourth quarter too, but he consistently made up for him. They're also asking him to make a lot of downfield throws, which are going to have inherently a little bit more room for error with it. So you have to sort of calculate that in as well. I mean, at the end of the day, I just love what he did in the fourth quarter to go out and find a way to win the game. And as a young quarterback who's still battling through everything on a day when all eyes were on him, he's covered the game day program, team captain, last one out of the tunnel, first time announced as the starter at quarterback for the Green Bay Packers at home. Fourth start ever in the NFL, down 17-0, nothing going your way, completely disjointed offense, can't run the football. You're missing Christian Watson, David Bakhtiari, Elton Jenkins, Aaron Jones, a ton of players on defense, and you just kind of say, screw it, we're going to win anyway. I said it post-game, I tweeted it out mid-game, or right after the game, excuse me. this was a coming of age moment for Jordan Love. And I think there is a ton of positive to take away. And like I said, I graded as a positive for me in my book on the day. Next up is Romeo Doubs. We saw the big plays. We saw, first of all, watch him against Marshawn Lattimore on the play where he shakes Lattimore and comes on a crossing route and Love kind of sidearms it. His his ability to gain separation off of Marshawn Lattimore on that play, super impressive. His toe drag, fingertip sideline catch that he also had, gained pass interference on that play, super impressive. He got a corner on one play to make illegal contact and pass interference with him. He got 2 penalties on one corner on one play on the second drive as they were going down to get points in their first touchdown of the game. And then you had the game-winning touchdown, basically, where he goes up and makes the big-time catch. A couple plays, too, where, I thought he had opportunities to maybe make some contested catches and couldn't come down with it. But overall, another really impressive performance from Romeo Doubs. And then Rasheed Walker, one of my lowest graded players last week. I mentioned a couple things. One, against Atlanta, the majority of Rasheed Walker's mistakes were made in the first quarter in that game. Missed a blitz pickup, gave up a couple other pressures, and just kind of had some bad blocking early in that game, and then settled down as the game went on. That's his first ever start in the NFL, and I think we get so caught up. We sometimes are easy to forget the human emotion that goes into that. Just as I'm sure Jordan had a little extra pressure on him in his first start at Lambeau Field in the regular season, and really his first significant playing time at Lambeau Field. I'm sure that played a factor in maybe some of the things that, Jordan was doing early in this game. And the same thing, Rasheed Walker, first time start in the NFL. He's a second-year player, and he's on the road in a tough stadium to play in, especially from a noise standpoint for an offensive lineman. There's a lot that goes into that. But the majority of his mistakes were in the first quarter against Atlanta, and I thought he settled down for the rest of the game. Not great, but enough to give me confidence that he was going to be okay to good moving forward. And he had a really big bounce back week. My highest graded offensive lineman, my third highest graded player on offense. And I thought he did just a really nice job throughout the day. Okay in run blocking. Run blocking's a nightmare as a whole throughout this offense right now. But I thought overall he was okay in run blocking and had a really nice day in pass protection. So impressive day for Rasheed Walker, and hopefully that gives him the confidence that he needs moving forward. They're probably going to need him a decent amount this season, the way things are trending for David Bakhtiari. So they're going to need him to play good football. He did against the Saints, and it was a really promising performance from him. And on the opposite side, my 3 lowest graded players, John Runyan Jr. was my lowest, and with negative 1.2, followed by Royce Newman, negative 1.05, and A.J. Dillon, negative 0.7. So let's talk about Runyan and Newman first. Newman was more pass pro related, and Runyan was more run blocking related. Both of them got beat on multiple occasions. The run blocking inside, not good, and could not get any movement whatsoever. And the Saints defensive tackles are really strong and stout at the point of attack, but it showed up the disparity in this game. And then I thought both of them just, had lapses in pass protection, specifically more on the Royce Newman side of things. I know everyone watched the game and saw Jordan Love throwing the ball all around the yard and had time on multiple occasions. There were some things that were covered up by, especially on Royce Newman's standpoint from a pass pro, side of things. They used Josh Myers, to kind of help out Newman from time to time. I also thought that Jordan Love did a great job of really navigating the pocket when he needed to. And he also did a great job of getting rid of the ball on some of those quick plays on plays where Royce and sometimes John Runyan Jr. did get beat as well. So I didn't think it was a great day on the interior for the offensive line, specifically with Runyan and Newman. And those guys are going to have to play better, especially John Runyan Jr. It's frustrating because we know the player that Runyan can be, and he just has games like this from time to time. You just want to see him put everything together and be a bit more consistent. This is a big-time contract year for him. I really had high hopes that this was going to be his best year as a pro. It hasn't been so far, and I really want to see better from him because I really think he can be a good player. I said earlier this offseason, I think it was, that I think there's Pro Bowl potential with John Runyan Jr. He just has to be a bit more consistent, and unfortunately, now going into year 4, we haven't seen that from him. I was hopeful it was going to happen in the contract year. It hasn't yet. And like I said, I need to see a better version of John Runyan Jr. than what we've seen in 2023 so far. And then A.J. Dillon, the run blocking's been atrocious. So we can caveat that to death. But the yards per carry through 3 games now for Dillon is also atrocious. And part of that is the blocking, but part of that is vision and confidence. A.J. Dillon has neither right now. This is like one of those times where if you had like a NFL G League team or a minor league team or whatever you want to call it, that you would love to send A.J. Dillon down against like a worse brand of football, like a worse team, just to like let him gain some confidence, like let him go play in the XFL for a couple weeks and just run some people over to start gaining confidence again, like go down to AAA and start, mashing home runs. So you start getting your confidence back. Like AJ Dillon just needs a confidence booster right now. And, he's not seeing the hole very well. He's, not getting any sort of explosive runs, which is one of his own personal goals going into the season. And as I've said for the past couple of weeks, it's getting harder and harder to figure out situations in which you want A.J. Dillon on the field. It hasn't been short yardage. Third down situations, Patrick Taylor has been better. A.J. Dillon had a really bad rep in pass pro this week. The pressure off the edge from Alante Taylor, where they got the sack on the play, that's on Dillon. I can't say 1,000,000% for sure, but that would be my guess, because you watch and Dillon's the back watching for blitzes, and they didn't slide protection a certain way. So he reads it up front. Not only does he read it up front incorrectly, but then he goes and runs into his own man and then gets like basically trampled over. But then the corner comes off the edge completely untouched on Jordan Love. That can't happen. And when you've got a back in to protect, that's 99.9% of the time his assignment. So Patrick Taylor better in third down. We saw Patrick Taylor and in blitz pickup, we saw Patrick Taylor make a couple of really nice catches and actually make a move after the catch and make somebody miss and gain some extra yardage, which Dillon did have the nice screenplay where he broke a tackle and got a big first down on 3rd and 10. So you give him his props there. But overall, it's been a really tough season for Dillon. And, I always feel like you're just picking on Dillon and it's just the run blocking. Guys, I had really great grades on A.J. Dillon for the past 3 seasons. It's the same grading scale. And if the blocking isn't there and he doesn't get anything, that's not on Dillon. I don't downgrade Dillon because he had a negative loss if there's a guy in his lap as soon as it happens. I'm downgrading him for his responsibility, for his portion of the play. And so far through 3 games, it has not been good enough. It's been a very negative grade. So he needs to be better, and there's just no 2 ways about that. And Green Bay's starting to experiment more, especially with Patrick Taylor, and just getting more touches for some of the other running backs. We'll see what that means when Jones is back, but tough start to the season for Dillon. Some honorable mentions on offense this week. Josh Myers, an even grade. Nothing to write home about here, good, bad, or ugly. But I just want to say through the past 2 games, he had a positive grade in week 2, slight positive, an even neutral grade in week 3. The last 2 weeks have been much better for Josh Myers, and we've seen a starting caliber center for the past 2 weeks, which it may not seem super sexy, but that's a big step. If he can play well at center at that level, neutral to slightly positive level football, that's going to be a big step for him and a big step for this offense. Josiah DeGuara, negative 0.5 grade. I am done with the Josiah DeGuara experience. He's bringing nothing to the table. He's not a dynamic playmaker. He's not a great pass catcher. He's not a good blocker. He's bringing nothing to the table. Try something else. Bring up Henry Pearson if you want to. Just go more tight end sets. Bring in another offensive lineman. I do not care. Go wide, go 5 wides. I don't care. If Josiah DeGuara is in the game, it's just not working, and it hasn't worked. So, in my opinion, time to move on, go in a different direction. There's nothing that I'm seeing at this point that Josiah DeGuara is bringing to the table. The 2nd and 3rd round pick from 2020, Dillon and DeGuara, really tough start to the year so far. Luke Musgrave on the flip side, plus 0.5 grade, consistently getting open. And I think he's doing a much better job as a run blocker, as we've talked about, than I ever expected him to do at this point of his career. So nice start of the year for him. And then Dontavian Wicks, plus 0.55 grade. He had a really nice day as well. He looks like the real deal. Go listen to the episode with Justice Mosqueda and I as we break it down a little bit further. But he has been impressive, and he is getting a lot of opportunity. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Really nice start to the season for him. On defense, no surprise, Rashawn Gary, my highest graded defensive player, plus 0.85 grade. He is doing a really nice job, obviously getting to the quarterback and making some impact plays and limited playing time. Knocks Derek Carr out of the game. Obviously, you don't want to see that. You never want to see a guy get hurt, but that's the sort of impact that you have. Like, I'm sorry, but your job as a edge rusher / pass rusher is to hit the quarterback hard. It's the nature of the NFL. And like I said, I never want to see a player hurt. I wish Derek Carr would have got back up and continued in that game. I hope he's ready to go this week. But your job as an edge rusher is to go out and kind of knock the quarterback out. Like, I don't think I'm saying anything controversial there. Like, that's what they get paid to do. So, Rashawn Gary, big time impact player in this game, 3 sacks, and thought he had a really nice day overall. I thought he had a rough week in week 2. Bounced back in a major way in week 3. And we all need to remember, myself included, preaching to myself here, that he is still coming back from the ACL. And even when he looks really good, you can tell he's still working his way back. got the game ball this week, emotional after the game. I just love Rashawn Gary, watching him play. Really, really fun player. Expect that big-time contract to come some point in the near future. Rasul Douglas, also loving the way he's playing football. He's playing intimidating, physical, at the point of attack, tough contested, coverage. Like, it's just really, really fun. And that has been carrying over since training camp 2021, we saw the impact plays that he had, and he was more of like what I would call like a game breaker corner, but he had a lot of risk reward. There were times that he was leaving guys open and just kind of gambling a little bit. Last year, up and down from Rasul, not quite the same player that he was in 2021, in 2021. And then in 2023 so far, I'm much more impressed with just his pure coverage ability. He's not gambling as much, and we may not see as many of the big plays, but he is making everything difficult on opposing wide receivers. He's playing a great brand of football. Unfortunately, he had the touchdown allowed against Jimmy Graham. He had really nice coverage on the play, was like this freaking close to knocking that thing away. Sometimes I guess you tip your hat. I think Rasul is just a little bit lucky that the ball just kind of like almost by accident avoided his hand, but Rasul's having a really nice start to the season. And Rudy Ford, plus 0.4 grade back-to-back. I thought nice weeks for Rudy Ford. He's just tackling really well. It's not anything sexy. It's not anything spectacular, but he's in the right spot at the right time, in the right lane, attacking aggressively and making big hits on the ball. And that's what you want from your safety. And I do feel like the safeties, for all the consternation and partially from me as well, of like, what's this safety room going to look like? It's probably the worst, safety group in the league, and it might be the worst positional group on the team. Rudy Ford, Darnell Savage, really nice start to the year. They're both playing winning football, and it's really fun to watch the aggressiveness with which both of those guys are playing with. Bottom 3 graded players, Justin Hollins, negative 0.55, just didn't do much on the edge. Struggled against the run, didn't do anything on the pass from a pass rush standpoint. Needs to be better from him. Carl Brooks, negative 0.45. They gave him a much bigger load this week. I really still like what Carl Brooks is doing. He had a couple really nice, impressive wins, quick wins where he got up and penetrated. One, he just couldn't get the sack. Another, I forget what happened on the play, but you see the flash from Carl Brooks. Now it's just consistency. He gets knocked around a little bit. He's going to just need to put on a little bit more functional strength to hold up at the point of attack in the running game, but he's going to be a good player. They've already elevated him over Colby Wooden this week, which Justice and I talked about as well. But I think he's got a very bright future, but there's going to be some moments, especially in the running game, where he still has learning and, like I said, needs to put on a little bit more functional strength, but a little bit of a hang with him this week for Carl Brooks. And then Keyshawn Nixon, negative 0.4 grade. Listen, Keyshawn Nixon had a big role on special teams, kick returner, punt returner, coverage units. He played a snap on offense, had a really nice reverse, and for the most part played pretty solid in this game. I know PFF liked him a little bit more than I did. I thought there were a couple plays in coverage that he didn't get targeted, but had he have gotten targeted, he had allowed separation for his wide receiver. I still like the way that Keyshawn is playing. I don't think there's anything to be concerned about here, but just a couple plays in coverage that I think need to be shored up a little bit. I still am of the mind, if everyone's healthy, I would like to see on base downs, Jair and Rasul on the outside with Keyshawn in the slot, and on clear and obvious passing downs, Jair in the slot with Carrington Valentine and Rasul on the outside. Eric Stokes could get his name in the conversation if and when he comes back as well. So all things to consider, but right now I still like what Keyshawn Nixon's doing. Just a little bit of a tougher week this week. Some other honorable mentions, Darnell Savage with a plus 0.3 grade. He has played really sound winning football through 3 weeks, which is so exciting to see. Wrote about him in my Grading the Pack article this week. Again, you can check that out over at Packer Report. And Corey Ballantyne, negative 0.1 grade, which is awesome. And you might say negative grade is awesome. He played neutral level football. Negative 0.1 is a neutral grade for all intents and purposes. For a guy that got called up on from the practice squad, had to go out and play a huge portion of this game against Michael Thomas and Chris Olave, he held up well. He might have to start this week. We'll see what happens against Detroit with the injuries, but a really nice performance from Corey Ballantyne, and one that hopefully he can build off of. He was expecting to be called up just as a special teams guy, and he's thrown into the mix against 2 really good wide receivers. Held up well, gave up a couple completions towards the end, but I thought it was a nice performance from him. Kenny Clark, plus 0.15. Awesome start to the game. Like, he was at like a point, like plus 0.75 in like the first, couple drives of that game, then had the big penalty, and then just didn't have the same level of intensity after that point. So nice game overall, but slowed up a little bit after his gangbusters start. He did have one play though, actually 2 plays, where it's in the run game and he's getting double teamed, And the strength of this dude is just crazy. He's just got a hand on each of them and just holding them there. They're two 300-pound NFL caliber offensive linemen who are trying to do anything they can to move Kenny Clark in any direction so he's not taking up that gap. And he's just holding them both off at bay with one hand each in the middle of their chests, and they are not moving. And he's just holding up play at the line of scrimmage. Like, the utter strength of that dude is incredible, and it is so fun to watch him play. All right, just a quick bonus one here for you. My top 5 graded players on offense and defense through 3 weeks so far. So this is through all 3 weeks of the season. My top 5 on offense: Jordan Love plus 2.65, Zach Tom plus 2.05, Romeo Doubs plus 1.80, Dontavian Wicks plus 1.30, and David Bakhtiari, despite only playing one game, plus 1.10. So if you want to know why they keep, Bakhtiari and even though they know the injury stuff and whatever, like when the dude is out there playing, he plays at a very, very high level. So I know it's frustrating, but he's the 5th highest graded player on offense and he's played one game. So my 5 highest graded defensive players so far: Kenny Clark plus 1.9, Quay Walker plus 1.9, Rasul Douglas plus 1.4, Devontae Wyatt plus 1.1, and Rashawn Gary plus 0.9. So those are my highest graded players on offense and defense through 3 weeks so far. Jordan Love standpoint, just in case you want to compare it, Aaron Rodgers through 3 games last year had a negative 1.20 grade, Love at plus 2.65. Aaron Rodgers on the season last year had a plus 0.2 grade, Love plus 2.65 so far this year. Now, 2020 Aaron Rodgers, MVP Aaron Rodgers, was plus 11.45 through 3 games. So again, Love at plus 2.65, and Rodgers was plus 35.8 on the season. So I'm not saying he's peak Aaron Rodgers. I'm not saying he's playing at an MVP level or anything like that. Nothing close to it. But last year's Aaron Rodgers, who, if you go back and watch, struggled through a big part of that season. Right now, Jordan Love playing better through 3 weeks by a pretty significant margin than what Aaron did through 3 weeks a season ago in 2022. That's going to do it for me today. Thank you so much for joining me. Be right back here tomorrow with an all-new episode with Paul Brettel. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.